Okay. Yeah, hello and welcome to the kickoff event for Young Professionals Association. This is a new group, which is going to be a premier networking group for our recent Roosevelt graduates. And it's going to be made of up of alumni across all industry. The university is doing this to provide a value-added opportunity for all of our graduates to network and further use their degree for opportunities and to meet people. So thank you for joining us today for this kickoff event. And like I mentioned, the event will be recorded. I'm going to be the moderator and kind of MC of the event, so forgive me ahead of time because I'm reading and checking chat and making sure everybody's admitted, so there may be a little bit delayed, but I'm going to make this work. So I am Jessica Mueller and the Associate Director of Alumni Engagement. I'm new to Roosevelt this May, so I'm really excited to get this kicked off and see what comes of the Young Professional Association. Our first event is called My Life is a Movie You Don't Want to Miss, featuring our speaker today, Nikoleta Morales, who's a master's graduate from 2010 in journalism. And thank you so much for being here with us today. I don't know if you can see her.
Can everyone see me and hear me? Oh, you can? Oh, great. Well, hi, everyone. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for having me, and thank you to everyone who joined. I know you all are busy, so I appreciate your time, and I see some of my professors here.
Oh,
so
nice.
Say hi to them as well.
That's
and
really great.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so a little bit of background on Nikoleta is that she is an award-winning writer, photojournalist, entertainment journalist, editor, and publicist in Chicago. She has written for several publications in the U.S. and abroad, such as BG Voice, the Daily Herald, Extra Newspaper, Lawndale News, the Tribune, FF2 Media, and Newsweek out of South Africa, among others. Currently, she's freelancing as an entertainment journalist for Cultured Focus magazine. She also has her own entertainment blog, which won a national award in 2019. Nikoleta is finishing her first memoir that comes out this summer, published by Rose Gold Publishing, LLC. That's the name of the event today. Among many accolades, Morales has been awarded the Communicator of Achievement Award by Illinois Women's Press Association and was recognized by the National Federation of Press Women this year. Morales has covered the Oscars in 2019 and 2020 for FF2 Media and the 2020 Sundance Film Festival for Cultured Focus magazine. She has interviewed people from all walks of life, from local communities to politicians to celebrities like Paul Chavez, Cesar Chavez's son, Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King III, the president of Bulgaria, Rosen I'm gonna butcher this, Pavlovich.
That was the ex-president.
Sasha Pfeiffer, who's an award-winning journalist from the Boston Globe, Eva Longoria, Gabriel Iglesias, Marlon Wayans, Mark Anthony, Renee Zellweger, Rob Schneider, Mario Lopez, Mark Tyson, and more, which you'll hear more about during this interview. So thank you so much for Nikoleta for joining us today. I really can't wait to hear more about your journey. A few housekeeping notes. To best network during this Zoom call, I would suggest changing your username to your name plus your email so people can gather those. And then we'll have time for question and answer at the end. So go ahead and put them in the chat box. And then preferred viewing for this would be in the speaker view. So it'll switch over to whoever's speaking at the time, which can be selected in the top left corner with those little building blocks. So let's get started with some questions. Nikoleta, if you can tell us about your moves after graduation, how did you know you wanted to be a celebrity journalist?
Well, thanks, Jessica, and thank you for organizing this. And again, thanks for everyone for being here and my professors who helped shape me into my journey of who I am today and my professional career, and for them being here today, and for everyone that joined. I really appreciate you and your time. So my journey hasn't been easy. It wasn't one straight line. When I was at Roosevelt, I was still kind of searching of what I wanted to do. Anne-Marie Cusack will probably remember me doing investigative journalism and wanting to do investigative journalism a lot, which was what I wanted to do initially. And that's why I went to Noseweek in South Africa to do investigative journalism internship. Then I wanted to do photojournalism, and Shonda Dudleychek probably remembers helping me with the internship at the Daily Herald. So I kind of switched back and forth a lot, and entertainment journalism found me. When I was at Extra newspaper, I was a managing editor from 2012 to 2014. So I used to get a lot of PR requests coming in. And initially, the newspaper wasn't entertainment heavy. It had one or two sections. But when I started covering the events and meeting the stars, the directors, the actors, the musicians, I found passion and a lot of excitement, and my stories were good. And then I kept getting more and more interview requests, and that's kind of how I got my feet wet. And so when I left the newspaper, I thought that was it. I was crying actually when I left, thinking that's it, it's over, entertainment journalism is done forever for me. But no, it wasn't. They kept contacting me, and I created my blog, the entertainment journalism blog, for the underdog celebrities that don't get as much attention, but really have talent and want to get noticed. So that helped as well. And then I started freelancing for different publications. And then I found FF2 Media with publisher Jen Hutner. And she gave me a chance 2 years ago. And then that's how I got my feet wet with female directors. And in 2018, in the winter of 2018, I applied for the Oscars just to see if I'll be able to get in. And I knew it was really difficult. It wasn't an easy thing to do. But somehow I got in, and it was the first time ever in FF2 Media's history and my history to ever cover the Oscars. And then I did a good job in 2019. So when I applied again for 2020, they accepted me. And then when I left in 2020, they said, we'll see you next year. So we'll see if I'll be back in 2021 with COVID and everything. So that's how I got into the Oscars as well. That's a short synopsis of my journey, but it seemed like entertainment journalism was the one thing that stayed throughout, no matter the circumstance or the change. So I figured it was probably meant to be, and I liked it. So
what's your approach to journalism and writing?
well, I was told, well, it's always tell the truth. And my truth is always the one that I believe is objective. It doesn't take one side or the other. I try not to put my personal feelings into the story. And I always try to feel the essence of the person that I'm interviewing or the story that I'm telling. So when the story comes out, you really feel the essence and of whatever happened or what the story is. So I'm kind of like the transmitter between the person telling the story and then the person that's reading it, so they can really get an idea of who they are and what's really happening. And I think this is why most of the celebrities really like that approach, because I'm not trying to be gossipy, or I'm not trying to make them seem one way or another, but I really tell the story as is through their eyes, and then me being objective, and then it works at the end. And they get to tell me things and share things that usually are not published, but the publicists always try to shut me down and say, no, they can't come out. So then I have to use ethics as well and try to keep it to myself. Because, you know, you have to do that over the years. Though I was really excited when I was a student at Roosevelt. I used to want to publish everything I learned, and the investigative journalist in me is like, yes, I uncovered something, I have to put it out there. But then you have to really think about it, what damage might cause and all that little details, all these little details. So thank you, Anne-Marie Cusack and Shonda Dudleychek, because I see you're I see you're the only professors from Roosevelt that I see here. So I really appreciate you, and thank you for what you taught me. You did a great job.
That kind of leads into the next question, which talks about what teachings at Roosevelt do you still find helpful in your career?
Definitely the investigative journalism class was one I always remember. Anne Marie was really tough and she taught us really well. And I appreciate what I learned with her. It really stood with me. And then she saw something in me and I appreciated that as well. It always helps when somebody believes in you when you don't believe in yourself yet. So having that and great professors that are really passionate about what they're teaching and the subject and journalism and giving you opportunities. And I used to work at the Torch newspaper as a photo editor for a while, and getting involved at the university's newspaper helped as well, getting my feet wet with photo editing and photojournalism. So I think Roosevelt is a great place. I mean, I'm very happy I went there and was able to get my education and pursue it and find my way afterwards after college and fly away
Hmm.
on my own with all that knowledge.
So you have experience as both a journalist and publicist. What's for those wondering, what's the difference and similarities between the two? And then how do you even get into celebrity journalism? I know you spoke briefly about it earlier, but is this like a Indeed listing, celebrity journalist?
Well, so journalism and PR I found are very similar in the sense that they tell a story. What I found different is that there's a different intent in telling the story. Usually with PR, the intent is obviously to advertise and to present the story in a way that sells as a journalism story, but the idea is to put the publicity out or sell a product or a movie or whatnot. Whereas journalism is you try to be objective and you really try to tell the truth as you find it. So honestly, when I first started getting into PR, I had a big problem because the people that I was working with were always like, Nikoleta, you're not a journalist here, you're a publicist, AKA whatever you find that's not right, you don't put that out there. And then you focus on selling and being more diplomatic. So it took a while for me to transfer because the journalism ideals of telling the truth and say it like it is really messed with that idea a little bit. But working with attorney Jeffrey Leving, who's a very famous father's rights attorney, and learning from him, he was a great marketing guru. Then working for the Purple Group, my Y agency, and then I did my own independent PR. I was able to get my feet wet and use my journalism to actually help with publicism instead of hurt it. And then I knew what to pitch, how to pitch the story, where to pitch it, and that helped. And I had already made connections. So I represented the movie Murder in the Woods in 2018 with Danny Trejo. They were, and Luis Ego was the director. It had Yelena DeLeon, Kate Weiss, Chelsea Rendon, which eventually went to do other big things afterwards. But they really liked my style, and we sold the show when they were here at the Latino Film Festival for 3 days. And then I had other movie directors come to me and begging me to work with them and get them the same result of publicity. So I found that I was really good at getting the message out and people were picking it up. And at the Purple Group, when I worked as a publicist, the editor would, not the editor, I'm getting it confused, but the founder would always say that I was the best pitcher she has ever had because I hustled and I made sure that the journalists really read and found the importance in the story, regardless whether it was meant to sell or not. There was always something interesting in that story that called their attention. But to be honest, I always prefer journalism to PR because I just liked it. I like it better. I find me better in it. And in terms of the celebrity journalism, when I was at Extra, I won a few awards for my journalism stories and entertainment stories. And I met Draco Rosa and Marlon Wayans and Rob Schneider, Eva Longoria. So I started to get big names and publicists were reaching out to me for bigger A celebrities. And they really liked me when I would do an interview with them. Sometimes they would cry and they would tell me that I was able to dig deeper into their soul and find answers and portray them in a different light than other journalists would on the superficial side. And I think that got my name out there. And then I started to get more and more pitches and interview requests. And so I just kept going and made my name mostly in the film industry because I love film. And it just snowballed from there. I think it's very important when you work in the entertainment journalism industry to have a good name because one little mistake and you pretty much can go down the drain and put you in the blacklist. And then no one wants to work with you. I had an interview I was doing for one film back in the day. I can't remember the film now because there was so many, but I started asking investigative questions to two of the actors, and they didn't like that. So then I got an email afterwards saying, if you continue, we'll put you in the red zone. And I didn't know what the red zone meant. So later on I found out, oh, okay, it has to be done in a different way. So you learn here and there, and you just keep going until you get to the Oscars and beyond, I guess.
So I'm going to switch back over to sharing my screen so we can talk about some more of the celebrities you've worked with here. So if you want to just talk about some of the most interesting celebrity interviews you've had over the years.
Absolutely. The most recent one was, as you'll see later in the slides, was during the Oscars this year when Renee Zellweger won her Oscar for Best Actress for the film Judy. Yeah, you can see it in the middle. So when she came out in the press room with her Oscar, usually when you're in the Oscars press room, very few journalists are picked to ask questions. It's almost like everybody's raising their hands and you're hoping somebody will pick you and you get to ask them questions. But I was picked to ask Renee Zellweger the first question among two other journalists, so it was just the three of us. And then she was very happy, very excited, and she gave us Culture Focus magazine an exclusive answer. And then we used that, and it was really exciting because she was really nice, really sweet, and very honest in her answers, and she appreciated it and the question. And then I met Tom Hanks right afterwards, but I didn't find him to be really nice. The story with Tom Hanks is that when he came out and I was able to see all the celebrities come out of the Dolby Theater, I asked him to take a picture with me and he said no. And then I said, well, congratulations on your nomination for a Best Actor. And then he said, okay, fine, well, you're here anyway. He gave me an attitude and he still took the picture. You can see him angry in the picture anyway. And so I said, but you seem so nice in the movies. Why are you so mean? And then he saw a friend of mine, a Bulgarian journalist, doing her B-roll. And then he went up to her and he tried to interfere and take a picture with her. And I'm like, that makes no sense. He just said no to me. So you never know with the celebrities, like with the way they are, but they're usually really nice and really fun. And Rob Schneider was another good one. I think that was in the back slide. Rob Schneider is a comedian and he was in Chicago doing a stand-up. And so I was in his VIP room and I was talking to him, and yeah, there you go in the middle. And he was giving me tips on how to do journalism, and he was asking me questions of what I want to do in the future, what cameras to use to do my interviews. And I was really excited. I was like, oh my God, you're giving me tips. And so I used some of the tips he was telling me, and he seemed very friendly and a family oriented person. And another interesting one I would say was at the Sundance Film Festival. Kerry Washington was promoted. She was a producer of one documentary that they were doing. And she didn't want to give interviews to anybody. Yeah, right there in the corner. And so in this business, you have to be really persuasive and just not give up when they say no. So I went up there and I said, well, Carrie, I'm already here. Could you just answer one more question for Culture Focus magazine? And she said, fine, that's okay. And so she came up and she gave us the only interview that she of the day, and I don't think she gave any more afterwards. So my editor was really happy that I didn't give up when the publicist said no. And being that I worked as a publicist, I know, what their roles are and how they represent. So I went straight to the star and I said, hey, give me the interview. And then I had a similar thing with Mark Anthony when he was in Chicago, and then the publicist was saying no to a lot of the journalists, and I just pushed her away and I said, no, Mark Anthony, can you answer that question? And then he said, sure, because usually they do want to answer the questions. Yeah, right there in this corner. And then the most interesting photo I took was of Taylor Swift. at the Sundance Film Festival when they had a cutoff line for the journalists that were allowed to take photos of her. And it was just the Netflix photographers for some reason that were allowed. And so we, the other journalists, stood outside and waited for her to come. And it was crazy. People were hitting each other. The journalists were hitting the fans with cameras. I felt suffocated between journalists. I couldn't breathe because everyone wanted the picture, but you just have to push and wait. And you stood there, and I stood there in the cold. My hands were freezing, and I said, I'm going to get that shot. And so it was just a split of a second. She turned towards me and she waved, and I was like, this is my chance. And I just snapped the shot, and lucky shot, I got it. But it's very, very difficult when you have all these journalists competing for a shot or for an interview. You have to be really hustling, and also underneath in that picture with the other actors there, I was also told you can't take a picture with them. But again, I ignored a publicist and I went straight to the source and I said, listen, I need a picture. And so they were kind enough and did it. So from my experience, the celebrities are very nice, very kind, and most of them. And they are very understanding and hardworking, and they have a lot of wisdom that I like to learn from and portray them as I see them in their stories, and they like that. They kind of see themselves in the stories and not that shallow person that most of the media, TMZ and so forth, try to portray them as.
So how do you talk a little bit about your experience at the Oscars and Sundance Film Festival a little bit more?
Sure. For the Oscars in 2019, I was very excited. I was nervous. I almost got a heart attack before I went because I was so excited. I just didn't know how to handle the emotion. And so when I got there, the first day they allowed you to go on the red carpet, take pictures, and it seemed like pretty normal, pretty not as glamorous as you would see it on TV. But then the day off, the actual Oscars, I felt the energy of the stars and then a lot of journalists, and it was incredible. I mean, I can't describe the feeling. It's nothing like I could compare it to. It's just an amazing feeling of the energy, the excitement, the glamour. And honestly, I got a really cheap dress from Macy's in 2019, and I said, I'm never doing this again if I go to the Oscars in 2020. Because it just didn't fit right. And then I was able to meet, to see Lady Gaga up close. I was a big fan of hers. I was right at the front row when she won for her song with Bradley Cooper. And she was right there, and it was incredible to see her so close. I wasn't able to ask her a question, but I was happy that I was in the same room with her. And then afterwards, I drank coffee on the red carpet with Mark Ronson, who was her producer. And I met Olivia, who had won for Best Actress in 2019. So that was exciting. In 2020, I was excited because I had a designer, Marian Jorge, who designed the red dress for me, and they worked really hard. It was custom made, and I felt really glamorous in it, so it was definitely a better experience on that level, and gave me more confidence at the Oscars. And then I was again at the front row. I saw Brad Pitt, Elton John, and then of course Renee Zellweger and Ask Her a Question, and then Tom Hanks, and a few other celebrities that I was saying hi to, as well as Billie Eilish. But the Billie Eilish incident was almost by accident because she was walking up the stairs, and I didn't even believe I was seeing her, and I started screaming, Billie Eilish, is that you? And then she turns around with the green hair and her brother, and she was laughing, and I said, I love your music. So it was kind of exciting, sometimes you got to be careful though. You can't, as a journalist, you can't really act obviously as a fan, and I have to know that. But sometimes the nerves get the best of me. So so it was really, really great experience, something that you never forget. And I'm just sorry that COVID put a freeze on the movie industry and the festivals, because it was really fun. It was a really great experience.
So with that, maybe you can talk about like how, I mean, you talk a lot about meeting these people, but how did you build your network? Like, what were your intentions? How did you know where to start, right? Like who to talk to, who's important?
Sure. I know that's always the big question. And I would always say start small, because you have to start with their publicists, because they're the ones that reach out and send requests. So if you're able to find one publicist for even a small band or a small act or somebody that's just starting out that already, excuse me, that already gets your name on their list, so you start getting more and more requests as they represent different celebrities, and so you start slowly to build a network. I mean, it took me 2010, that's not 2020, over 10 years to build a network to be able to talk to the A-listers and the big celebrities and get to the Oscars. But I started small. I started with one publicist who reached out at Extra and wanted an interview, and I did it, and then she kept contacting me, and then others kept contacting me out of nowhere just because they have a list of people that they know do a good job with interviews. So my advice is always start small. Just try to find PRs. They're really easy to find, and they always have clients that they represent. And just say, hey, I'm interested. I want to do an interview, and that gets you the foot in the door. Then you just build it over the years, and then you freelance for as many publications as you can, and get your feet wet that way as well.
I'm sharing the slide of with one picture of the Cookie Monster. You want to share that fun story?
Yes. So I also have a daughter. She's 9 years old, and so I used to take her with me to certain events when she was younger. Not anymore because she doesn't like it. But when she was 2, I took her to. I did an interview with Maria and the Cookie Monster for Sesame Street, and so she was behind the scenes, and the Cookie Monster is staring at her, by the way, because she's right next to me. And then when the interview was done, she gave him a cookie, and she fed the Cookie Monster a cookie, and she was so happy because she believed she met the Cookie Monster from Sesame Street. And it was really fun. I was really excited. And then the person who does the voice of the Cookie Monster in real life is a really, really gentle, kind person with a really soft voice. So you would never think that that's the person who actually is the Cookie Monster. But yeah, really fun story.
You are currently, well, very close to finishing your memoir here, My Life as a Movie You Don't Want to Miss. Can you tell us about what the book's about, what your writing process has been like, and how do you approach like a publishing house for
Absolutely.
publication?
So, I mean, I've always wanted to write my story because I have a very unique story in terms of my background, and how I'm a self-made story and not rich parents or connections or anything like that. So I was approached by Roosevelt Publishing because someone that knew the publisher knew about my story. I had shared it with her, and so that's how we connected. And she offered to represent me and write the book. And so I said, well, why not? You know, it's maybe the perfect time to do so. And so the book is about my journey when I left Bulgaria at 15 by myself to study as an exchange student in Maine. And then my journey, my fight with anorexia, my fight with bulimia, depression, divorce, single parenthood, and how I was able to come out of it. And then the opportunities that came where I studied and how I got to work with celebrities. So there's a lot of truth in the book, a lot of strength and resilience. So I just want to give a hope to others if they're struggling with anything, that there's always a way out. And I hope that others will see it in the book, because it wasn't an easy journey, and I had a lot of help from God. I mean, I'm a believer in God. I know not everyone is, but that helped me as well, my faith in making it. So I'm still a single parent. So the book doesn't end with a fairy tale of I found my prince and I lived happily ever after, like you usually find in the movies. It ends with, yes, I'm a strong female and I have a daughter and I take care of it and I love myself enough not to be in an abusive or toxic relationship or marriage. And I choose myself. And being on my own. So that's the difference with the book. And that's the story. It comes out in September on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, so you'll be able to find it and read it there. And the book was also chosen in a writer's summit in October that happens. I know it's going to be the next question, but there's a writer's summit with very famous writers such as Sleepless in Seattle's author, among others, that is taking place in Cape Cod. And I was chosen to be one of the writers there, and I'll have my book there. So I'm excited about that as well.
That sounds really great. I hope to grab a copy of that and read
Absolutely, Jessica. You'll be the first to get it.
it. And maybe that's the fairy tale after all, right?
Yes,
They're
the fairy
happy,
tale.
healthy.
No, the fairy tale, honestly, is, and what I found is that the fairy tale is that you're the one that you've been waiting for your whole life. It's not a prince. It's not a guy that comes and saves you and sweeps you off your feet. It's yourself. And I've had a lot of relationships, and obviously a failed marriage and another serious relationship that didn't work. That I was able to find the truth in that. And originally I thought, well, maybe the happy ending's supposed to be a prince, but no, it's not. You're your own hero. And especially for women, that's a very important message. And for the young girls who believe that meeting that one person would save them, or they need to stay with them, and it's such a false illusion that obviously we were told through the films and fairy tales, but in reality it's yourself. And obviously it's nice to meet the one person, but that's not the goal. The goal is to love yourself enough to be able to be on your own and make it and love yourself.
That's lovely. Yeah, and I have a comment says from Ivana, says, love the revised fairy tale ending with some hearts.
Yes, different.
So kind of on that note, Roosevelt's vision is to create socially conscious citizens who are leaders in the world. How do you feel you're contributing to that professionally and personally?
Well, I believe I'm contributing with definitely the stories that I put out there for people to read and get inspired by, and with my personal story that I decided to write and focus on myself, the journalist, on my own story instead of everyone else's, and inspire others to do better. I mean, especially nowadays in so much chaos and crime and uncertainty and COVID, people need hope. They need to know that there's good out there. And there is. It's just a matter of finding it in ourselves, because the outside is so unsteady and we can't rely on it. And so I hope that with my personal stories and my message and me being a good citizen, I'm contributing to the world. But I guess, we all have different point of views. So from my point of view, I'm doing my work.
No, that's great. That's great. So can you share one piece of advice for newly graduated student writers out there?
Yes, definitely don't be afraid to fail, because when I was in grad school, I remember my head was swollen. I believed I'll be the biggest thing ever as soon as I graduate. I'll find this incredible job, make 100,000 a year, and that's not reality. In reality, you fail a lot. Sometimes you lose jobs, sometimes you switch jobs, and it's very important to be realistic and believe in yourself and just try different things, because you never know where you'll find your real passion. And you don't have to be stuck in a job you don't like, because there's so many other opportunities out there, especially in journalism. You could be a photojournalist, investigative, entertainment, crime reporter, so much. So it's important to really discover your passion in it.
That's great. Great advice. So you kind of touched on some future plans with the book, but anything else going on in the future for you?
Well, definitely making sure that the book is out there, and the summit is very important in October. I'm also participating in, no, that's separate, but I'm also participating in a beauty pageant in August. I have been participating in beauty pageants as well and doing acting on the side, just because I wanted to explore different fields and not just one. So beauty pageants is a Miss Illinois for Miss Infinity and American Elegance, Miss Cook County 2020. So that's in the future, and I don't know. We'll see what happens. I just hope we're all well and safe and healthy, because it's uncertain times, scary times we live in right now.
That sounds fun. Yeah, good luck to your
And
contest.
I want to say something to Shonda. Shonda, yes, I helped her daughter with a story, and her daughter was awesome. She asked me really great questions. So thank you. I see she could be a future journalist, Shonda. She was awesome.
And one final question. So why are you proud to be a Roosevelt alumna?
Because Roosevelt is a great school. I have to be honest, when I did my bachelor's at Wilson College in Pennsylvania, I had to switch schools and go to the American University where I discovered journalism, and I wasn't happy with the school. So my point in saying that I'm very happy I graduated from Roosevelt because of the great professors, great programs. I had great friends. I mean, I have happy memories from there, nothing bad. And I appreciate Anne Marie Cusick even now. I'm reading her message as she remembers me as her student. And you just need devoted professors that are passionate about what they're teaching, and the way they're teaching it is so it's like a fire that lits, and then you basically take the fire and then you make a bigger fire, and you go out there and you inspire others to do the same. And it starts with a great university, and for me that was Roosevelt.
That's wonderful.
So thank you all.
Yeah. I did want to share with the group. Thank you so much, first off, for your discussion today. I think it had some beautiful messages to it, and it's really fun to hear about where life has taken our graduates 10 years out and where they've landed so far. And I'm sure there's going to be way more updates these next 10 years ahead for you.
I hope so. If there's no apocalypse, I'm just joking. We don't know.
Don't jinx us. I did want to share Nikoleta's social media information here. You can reach and connect with her on Twitter at the first handle, and then on Facebook and LinkedIn by her name, and on Instagram with a period between the names there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is recorded, so I'll be sending out a survey and the recording so everybody has it. You can touch base there with all the pictures and things and see them closer. I also want to thank you for joining us today. And there wasn't any questions, but this would be the time to throw them in the chat if you have any.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Feel free to ask anything. I'm an open book.
You could even you can even turn on your audio and ask them yourself. But here's one.
Kristen asked, how can I work towards becoming an entertainment journalist? Okay, that's a very good question, because the industry right now is on a pause. I mean, even the actors are freaking out a little bit because they want jobs, and right now there aren't that many because of COVID. But the film industry is something that's never gonna go away. I mean, it might transfer to virtual, and we might not have cinemas anymore, but the movie industry will always be there. So I believe there's always bread and an opportunity there. It's not going away. It's just probably going to change and shift and mold as we try to shift and mold towards what's happening right now. But working towards becoming an entertainment journalist is reaching out to different publications, such as, you can start small. You don't have to necessarily start with Access Hollywood or Extra, or the big ones to make it, because I didn't. And I was still able to go to the Oscars. Just try to find smaller online publications that write about movies and films, independent films, that you can reach out to them. They'll give you assignments. I'll be happy to share some with you. I guess you can share my email if they want to email me later. And I'm happy to connect you with the connections that I have. And then they'll give you assignments. You'll start writing your stories, and you just build your network from there. Small steps is what I always say.
Very good. Here's another question. An incoming senior at RU pursuing journalism and media studies. I was wondering how you push through hesitation and build up confidence when interviewing and asking questions. Any tips on that?
That's a great question. I love the questions. Great journalists already. I think, being a journalist is always asking the good questions and not being afraid to ask the right questions. Even there's no such thing as the wrong question. But Amanda, okay. So pushing through hesitation. I'm not going to lie to you. There were many times that I was doubting myself. I was hesitating. I was afraid. I was petrified. I felt like I wasn't good enough. And when you meet people on a higher level, or when I say higher level, more successful with more money or more experience, it's always scary. But it's important to believe in yourself, because if you're there, there's a reason you're there. It's very important to remember that people always start small. You always start somewhere. No one was born successful. And even a lot of the celebrities that I talked to were doubting themselves. They were questioning their own abilities, even though they were successful. So everyone's experiencing it. And it's important to remember that you won't be the only one. And when trying to in terms of asking the questions, it's very important to do your research on the person that you're gonna talk to, see who they are, what they like, what they've done, and then you build your questions from there. For example, when I do my celebrity interviews, I always go online and I research what they've done, other interviews they've done, and then I see what questions they were asked, and then I see what answers they gave, and then I go from there. But research is very important. That's where my investigative journalism came handy, because it really teaches you to research and investigate before you do the interview. I hope that was helpful, Amanda.
Here's another one. What's the best approach to enter freelance writing? And there are many topics that Ivana is passionate about, so she wants to pursue that part.
Okay, so freelance is huge right now, especially with COVID. Everyone's looking for freelancers, so there is a lot of work out there. If there's any topic that you're interested in, I would say if it's health or entertainment, what I would suggest is go on Google, put health entertainment, and then see all the publications, whether online, newspapers, or even radio. I'm not sure if you want to write or you want to be on radio or TV, but see who they are and reach out, because their contact information is always there. There's always a contact button. And then what you do is, there's a lot of hustle. It doesn't always come to you. It's not like a fairy tale. So you have to work hard to get it. So you contact all of them, and then you see if they're available, if they give any assignments. For me, I did a lot of the outreach myself. I would find the publications and ask, do you offer any freelance gigs? Can I write for you? And usually they say yes or no. So my advice is just see who these publications are that write about the topics you're passionate about and reach out. The worst thing that can happen is for them to say no. And I've had a lot of no's, but then I've had a lot of yeses. So don't be afraid of rejection. That's part of the process.
Okay, great. So if you want to, I can forward out Nikoleta's email address, so you can follow up with some more questions there, or you can direct them to our alumni inbox as well, and I'll get those to Nikoleta. So just a plug about the Young Professionals Association. If you want to learn more, check that out through our alumni website. And here's our Facebook and LinkedIn links for our alumni groups specifically. And if you have any ideas for Young Professional Association events, webinar, virtual and otherwise, because hopefully eventually we can be back in person with each other, do let us know. And we're also looking for leaders to be ambassadors for this group. So if you're a young professional and want to be a part of leading this organization, this association, please let me know, and I can connect you with a short questionnaire about it. And our next YPA event is on Monday at 9 a.m. It's called Are You Okay?, which is a networking event. And it's just going to be to chat with each other about what's going on in our lives, maybe decompress and share resources that have been helpful for you to get through this time, and just check in with each other. So please fill out the survey. I'll be sending that this afternoon about this event. And I do thank you, Nikoleta, for being with us today. It has been wonderful to hear from you and connect with where you've been and what you've been up to. And I appreciate you sharing all your insights with the audience today. And
I want to say thank you as well, Jessica, and thank you to everyone who attended. I appreciate your questions, great questions. And feel free to email me. I answer my email, so and it's my personal email. So if you have more questions or anything, just feel free to reach out, and please follow me on social media, Nikoleta Morales, and be on the lookout for my book if you're interested. But thank you so much for your time and your questions, and don't be afraid to pursue your passions. It will work out if you are persistent enough and you're okay with rejections. Eventually there'll be a yes. And thank you. And I think, Jessica, you share my email address with them so they're
Yeah,
able
I'll follow
to.
up with the email.
Great. Well, that's been awesome. And thank you, Roosevelt, and my professors again for this. And hopefully next time I'll hear your stories, your personal success stories.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, and appreciate you being here. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.